Hey guys, what is going on? Welcome to Clutch Gaming. Today I have another CFW installation video for you. Now this is something I wanted to put out for a while now. Now I do have a previous video where I installed CFW, however it did get taken down. Now it has been re-uploaded to my other account, which you'll see linked in this video above. Just note that video guides do get outdated, so always make sure you're following the written guide in conjunction with this one so you do not do any steps wrong. Now, this CFW installation video is more geared towards individuals who are only going to be using their Nintendo Switch for Animal Crossing or Pokemon hacking. Now, this means that there is no piracy involved. This means the installation is really straightforward and we will be following the official guide from Nintendo Homebrew. Now, there will be no NAND setup if you follow this guide. Everything that you do will be done on the system NAND. Just note that means that it is possible to be banned doing this method. However, most people who are using their Switches for Pokemon and Animal Crossing are using this method and have not been banned as of yet. Now, piracy is the biggest issue of bans at this moment, and if you plan on doing anything illegal with your Switch, I advise you to follow my other guide that was linked, or you could find it in the description below. Like I said, this guide does not create an EmuNAND, and I just want to reiterate that. For most of you, this is not needed anyways. Now, let's get started. There are a few things that you'll need when setting up your Switch for the first time. You will need a MicroSD card. Since you are not creating an EmuNAND, using this method, a 32GB card is enough. Unless you have like a bunch of digital games where it will take up a lot of space, then I definitely advise getting a higher SD card. Now, the next thing you need is a USB-A to USB-C data transfer cable, such as this. Another thing that you'll need is a jig, which you can find easily on Amazon or through switchjigs.com. You'll also need a micro SD card reader for your laptop. I'll make sure to link in the description where you can buy each of these items. You don't necessarily need a micro SD card reader if you plan on using other tools such as FTPD or FileZilla to transfer your files wirelessly. However, as a newbie, I do suggest you get one of this anyway. Now, the next thing you want to do is make sure you get the Homebrew guide loaded up on your PC. Now, I will be following this guide to the T as it is. Now, things here may change depending on when you watch this video, as I mentioned earlier. So always make sure you read through the guide as you watch this video. Now, the first thing we want to do is format your SD card to FAT32. Now, we will be injecting something called Tegraexplorer.bin as a payload. In order to do this, I will link you to the GitHub to download this bin file. After you inject it, you're going to see a screen pop up on your Switch. Now, I will go back to the PC so that we can explain how to even get to this point. Hey, so we are back on my desktop. Now, this is the official Nintendo Homebrew guide. Now, I highly recommend you guys read through this guide front and back so you are aware of the steps you have to do prior to modding your Switch. Now, first thing you want to do is make sure your Switch is an unpatched unit. So I'll go ahead and link this website in the description below. Make sure you click on the prefix for your Switch and you type in your serial number in order to find out if your model falls under the unpatched category. Now, once you do confirm that it's an unpatched unit, you can go ahead and continue with this guide. Now, this page does have some information on what an EmuNAND and what a SysNAND is and what the differences are between them. Now, for our purpose, we will not be creating an EmuNAND because all of you are not here to do any sort of pirating. Now, we will be doing everything directly on the Switch, and this is for people who are only modding their Switch for ACNH and Pokemon. Having an EmuNAND does have its benefits, but if you don't know what it's for or what it is, you have a higher chance of messing up and getting yourself banned. So let's just forget about even making that for now, if you plan on playing legitimate games. You can always create an EmuNAND later on if you choose to do so. Now remember, don't cheat in any online competitive multiplayer games and you should be fine. Now if you scroll down, you'll see that there's a getting started option. You can go ahead and click on that. Now when you get to the bottom, you'll see that there are two options. One is continuing to entering RCM with the EMU NAND, which is the recommended way, and there's a second option that says SysNAND CFW not recommended. Now for us, we're going to go ahead and click on the not recommended for this guide. Now before we even do anything, we want to make sure that our SD card is formatted to be FAT32. Now I do recommend you guys downloading a file called Tegraexplorer.bin, and this is made by such meme many skill. And you also want to make sure that you download TegraRCMGUI. Now basically, TegraRCMGUI is what we're going to be using in order to inject our payload into the switch to enter CFW. Now what you want to do is you want to go ahead and click on the zip file and make sure you download it to your desktop, and then you want to go ahead and extract the folder and all of its contents. After you do that, you want to go ahead and for the Tegraexplorer.bin file, you want to make sure you download the .bin file and put it on your desktop or wherever you can find it easily. Now I will link both of these links in the video description, so make sure that you click on it when you get to this part of the guide. Now once you have TegraRCMGUI downloaded, you want to go ahead and find the exe. It should have like a little black switch logo on it. Go ahead and double click that and you should see a little pop-up come up here. Now what you want to do first before doing anything is you want to go to settings and you want to click on install driver, and you want to make sure that you want to be updated to the most latest version of the driver before you even inject anything. So you can go ahead, click on next and click on finish. Now, after you finish updating your driver, you want to click on the browse folder icon and you want to find that bin file that you downloaded. Now, it is going to be called Tegraexplorer.bin, so I can find it on my desktop. There it is. So now you want to make sure that your switch is in RCM mode, so make sure you put your jig and slide it into the right Joy-Con rail. Once you do so, you're going to hear a little click when you know that it's nice and secure, and then you want to click on the volume up and power button on your switch. This is going to enter you into RCM mode. Your screen should stay black during this process. Now, next thing you want to do is you want to attach your data cable to your switch, to your PC, and then you should see that no RCM logo change into RCM detected right there. When you see this, you can go ahead and click on inject payload. Now, if done correctly, you'll see something pop up on your switch screen. Now I will switch over to my switch side and redo these steps so you get to see what's happening on the outside. So I showed you the steps on the PC, how to boot up TegraRCMGUI and how to pick the Tegraexplorer.bin file. Now I just want to bring you back to how it's going to look on your switch end. So what you want to do first is make sure that you did put in your SD card into your switch. Make sure it's all the way in there and make sure your right Joy-Con rail is off. And you want to grab your jig and you want to slide it into the rail on the right side. You want to bring it all the way down until you hear that click. Once you hear that click, you want to put your switch into RCM mode. Now you do this by holding down the power button. Not holding down the power button. You're going to be holding down the volume up button, hold it down, and then you're going to press the power button once. And then that's it. If you did this correctly, you'll see that the screen has stayed black. Now the next thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you put your USB-A to USB-C cable and you plug it into your PC. Okay, now just like how I showed it to you on my PC, when I did connect it, you would have noticed that the TegraRCM screen went from no RCM to green where it said RCM detected. So basically what you're doing once you're in RCM mode is you're putting the cable in as it's connected to your PC, and that's when that green RCM OK is going to pop up. Once that pops up, you're just going to click on inject payload. Once you inject the payload, you're going to see the following screen pop up on your screen. Now you will use the plus and minus button on the volume to control the options, and then you're going to click the power button to select. Now you can disconnect this after you inject. You don't have to keep it plugged in. So now what you want to do is you want to use the volume up and down buttons to get to partition the SD. Click on the power button to select it, and then it's going to give you an option. Do you want to do it for FAT32 and EmuMMC or only FAT32? Now the first option is only if you want to create an EmuMMC, which we're not going to be doing in this guide, so you only need to click on the second one where it says only FAT32. And then you're going to get a message that says, are you sure you want to format your SD? This will delete everything on your SD card. This action is irreversible. Are you sure? You want to make sure you click yes. However, just note that if this is a switch that you've been using for a while and you have a Nintendo folder, I highly suggest you back up that folder onto your desktop before you do any partitioning of the SD card. Now, once you have that folder backed up, all you're going to do is go ahead and click yes. And then you'll see it says starting the partitioning and formatting, and then it's going to be done almost instantly. And then it says press any key to exit. Once you're done, you're all done with this, and you can actually scroll down to power off or reboot to RCM. I would just click on power off here. Now that you have your SD card formatted to FAT32, make sure it's inserted back into your PC. Now, if for whatever reason you put your SD card into your PC and it gives you an error message saying it needs to be formatted, do not do this. Just click cancel. It will still work. Windows does not like your SD card being in FAT32, and it will try to actively force you to make it exFAT, which is something we don't want. Now, once you find your SD card, open it up, and you'll notice that I already have my Nintendo folder copied in here, since I have a digital copy of ACNH. There should not be any other folders on your SD card after formatting except for this if you decided to back this up prior to formatting. Next thing you want to do is go back to the Homebrew guide and download all these files that are highlighted in blue. As you can see, I went ahead and downloaded them, and each one tells you exactly which one to download off of GitHub. So please make sure you guys are always downloading the latest release and not any old builds. So if you just click on the latest release, or if you just hover over it, you'll know that this is the latest one, and then you can go ahead and download the file that it's telling you to do. Now, I do like saving everything to my desktop, so make sure that after all these files are downloaded, you extract them as well, which I have done here. Now, I will make sure to provide links for all of these below in the description as well. Now, on top of the files that are already mentioned here, I do highly recommend you guys download 2 more files, as it will be needed if you're planning on using these switches for Pokemon or Animal Crossing. Now, the first one will be Sysbotbase, and the second one will be LDN. Make sure you download the zip file for both of these as well. Now, once you downloaded them and extracted them to your desktop or wherever it may be, let's go ahead and go back to the guide, and let's go ahead and follow the instructions here to make sure that we copy over the correct files over into your Switch SD card. Now, I'm going to go ahead and follow the instructions on this page step by step with you guys, and I do like to keep 2 windows open, and I will link to the guide so we do them step by step. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. So we already have number 1 out of the way. The second step is copy the contents of the atmosphere.zip file to the root of your SD card. Now, when they mention root, the root is literally here. So in the root, there should be nothing when you open up, or just your Nintendo folder if you happen to have that there. Now it says you want to copy the atmosphere.zip file. So I'm going to open that up. I have it extracted. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste all of this into the root. Now the next step is number 3, which says copy the bootloader folder from the Hekate.zip file to the root of your SD card. So let's find the bootloader folder. Now don't get it mixed up with the boot logos folder. Now it does say it's from the Hekate.zip file, so that was this one, and then you'll find the bootloader folder. You're going to go ahead and copy that into the root. The next one is to copy the bootloader folder from the bootlogos.zip file. Now, from the bootlogos.zip file, you'll see that there is a bootloader folder in here. You want to go ahead and copy and paste that as well. Next is It just basically says if it asks you to merge, go ahead and do so. My laptop doesn't tell me to merge, so it just automatically merges them. Now, step number 6 is copy the Hekate IPL.ini to the bootloader folder on your SD card. So on your SD card now, you want to open up this bootloader folder, and then in here is where you're going to be copying that Hekate IPL.ini. Now the next step is to go ahead and copy the lockpick RCM.bin to the bootloader payloads folder on your SD card. So on your SD card, go to your bootloader and then go into payloads, and then in here is where you're going to be putting that lockpick file. Now step number 8 is that it says create a folder named App Store inside the switch folder on your SD card. So let's go back, switch, and then you want to create a new folder, and you want to make sure that you name it App Store. And once you do that, you're going to open that up and you're going to find the appstore.nro, and you're going to copy and paste that in there. Now the next step says copy Checkpoint, FTPD, NX Shell, and NX Themes installer into the switch folder of your SD card. So make sure you double click on the switch folder and you should see these 3 files. Now additionally, you want to make sure that you put these 4 files in there as well. So Checkpoint, FTPD, NX Themes installer, and NX Shell.nro. You just want to go ahead and copy and paste all of those in there. Now there is one more that I want you guys to install into the switch folder of your SD card. Now this is going to be called JKSV. I do use JKSV a lot for all of my save extraction. You can't even use Checkpoint for Animal Crossing, so JKSV is definitely really useful. Now we'll make sure to link this page in the description as well. You're going to go ahead and click on the jksv.nro file. It's going to download. And once it's downloaded, you're also going to put that into the switch folder. Now, when you're done with that, you can go back, and this is what your the root of your SD card should look like. And there is actually a picture here that mimics what it should look like. Now, if you did this properly, you want to go ahead and put your SD card back into your switch, and then we're going to boot in. So before we even go ahead and switch over to my switch, we're gonna go ahead and load up TegraRCMGUI, and you want to make sure that it's not on the Tegraexplorer.bin file. You don't need this file anymore. Now in the zip file that you downloaded for Hekate, you'll notice that there is a bin file in there. Now that is the one that you want to make sure that you browse in TegraRCM, because that's going to be the one that you're going to be injecting in. So you want to make sure that's opened up, and then you want to make sure that you put your jig into your switch, and then you want to go ahead and click on inject payload. Now we'll switch over to my switch so you guys can see what happens on the switch side. Now continuing where we left off from our desktop, you want to make sure that you have that Hekate.bin file ready on TegraRCM, and you want to make sure that your switch is in RCM mode. Remember to put your jig in on the right Joy-Con rail. Make sure that you hold down the volume up button and you click the power button once, and then your screen should stay on a black screen. Now once you do, you're going to go ahead and connect, and then on TegraRCM you're going to go ahead and click on inject payload. Now if you do this correctly, you're going to see this pop up on your screen. You can go ahead and disconnect your cable once it's booted up. And next thing you want to do is go ahead and enter the date and time. Now once you're done setting the date and time, you're going to go ahead and click on done and click on OK. Now the next important step is making sure that you make essential backups and you dump the keys. Now it's always really critical that you make these backups. They can be used to restore your switch to a working state in case of like an emergency, or if anything was to be bricked. Once you do make these backups, make sure that you keep it somewhere safe. You actually don't need to keep the backups on your SD card. You can actually transfer it over into your PC once you're done. Now in order to do this backup, what you want to do is you want to navigate to the Tools button on the top. Once you see that, you're going to see an option called Backup EMMC. Once you do that, you're going to tap on EMMC boot 0 and boot 1, which is the very first option. Now it's going to say checking for available free space, and let it do its thing. And then when it's done, you're going to see that it's finished and verified. Now when you're done with this, go ahead and click on close. And then the next step is to click on EMMC raw GPP, which is the second one down. You're going to go ahead and click on that. Now it's going to say checking for available free space. Now this backup will take a long time. However, note that if you're using an SD card that's 32 gigabytes or smaller, it's going to split the NAND into 1 or 2 gigabyte parts. Now when this happens, it's basically Hekate will stop producing it when it runs out of space. What you're going to do is you're going to power off your switch, insert your SD card into your PC, and then you're going to move all the files from a folder called backup and put it onto your PC, and then you're going to insert your SD card back into your switch and enter RCM again, and then you're going to inject Hekate, come back to the same screen, and then continue by tapping on backup EMMC and EMMC raw GPP. You're going to keep doing this process until your whole NAND is completely dumped. Once this whole process is done, I'm not going to sit here and make you guys go through it, but it will take a long time. Once it's done, make sure that you put your SD card back into your PC and make sure that that whole backup folder is located onto your PC, and make sure you delete it off of your Switch SD card because it does take up a lot of space. So you finished getting your NAND backup. Now the next thing that you want to do is get your console's unique keys. Now these are also very important to have because you're going to need them in conjunction with your NAND backup in case anything goes wrong with your Switch. Now in order to do this, you want to make sure that you're entered into RCM and you have the Hekate payload loaded up, and then you want to click on the payloads option. Once you click on the payloads option, you'll see that there's a lockpick.rcm.bin. You want to go ahead and click on that. Now, once you're here, you're going to see the screen pop up. And when you do, what you want to do is you want to use the volume up and down buttons to cycle through the options, and you're going to use the power button to select. Now you're going to see an option up top that says dump from SysNAND key generation. You want to go ahead and click on the power button on this. Once you go ahead and click the power button, you'll see that it's rebooting, and there you go. It's going to say that the lockpick was completed, and press a button to return back to the menu. Once you click a button, you're going to see that you're back to this main screen, and then you can go ahead and click on power off. Once you do that, you're going to boot up your SD card into your PC, and then we're going to go ahead and copy the prod keys from the switch folder and your backup folder and put it somewhere safe on your desktop. So if you're all done with your backups, you should have put your SD card back into your PC again, and once you get to the root, you're going to see that there is a backup folder. Just make sure that you go ahead and copy and paste this into your desktop somewhere, keep it safe. I already went ahead and did that. Also, if you go into your switch folder, you are going to find your prod keys and your title keys here. You want to make sure that you also make sure that you back those up onto your desktop as well. Now, once you're done with that, you can go ahead and delete them off your SD card. So you can delete the title keys, the prod keys, and you can even delete the backup folder that you had. So, because you really don't need all that space taken up on your SD card anyway. Now, once you're done with that, you're all set. You're completely modded, and you can go ahead and start modding your Animal Crossing game or your Pokemon game. I do get a lot of questions on what do I do next? How do I boot into my Switch? So I'm going to take like the next couple of minutes to go ahead and go over that with you as well. I feel like it's going to be very beneficial. Alright guys, if you guys have gotten to this point, that means you've successfully modded your Switch. Now, there are always questions on what do I do after this? How do I get to everything else? So I'm going to go ahead and show you exactly what you need to do. Now, first things first, make sure that your jig is in your Switch, and make sure that you're in RCM mode by pressing the volume up and the power button. Then plug it in and make sure that you inject Hekate. Once you inject the payload, you're going to come to this main screen. What you want to do from here is you want to make sure that you click on the launch button, okay? Once you click on the launch button, you're going to see where it says SysCFW and stock if you did this correctly. Now what you want to do is you want to load into the first option, the SysCFW. Go ahead and click on that, and then you're going to load into the home page of the switch. Now you can take out the jig after you're already in Homebrew. You could slide your Joy-Con rail back in, and let's get to the main menu. Now, there are two ways to get into your Homebrew menu. Also, if you just want to confirm that you're in CFW, you can go to the settings option. Now, if you come all the way to the bottom to system, you'll see under system update, it tells you what the current version is, and it even has it'll either have an S or an E at the end. Now, if you followed this guide in this video, you should be on an S if you launched into SysCFW. Now let's go ahead and go back to the main screen. Now a lot of people wonder how to get into the Homebrew menu. There are two ways of doing it. The first way is by just clicking on the album tab. Now it does say applet mode on top. You don't want to launch your switch into applet mode. It doesn't utilize all of the resources on the switch. So what I do recommend is something called title launching. Title launching means that you should have another app that you can boot into Homebrew with. Now it can be Google, it can be another game, whatever it may be. But what you want to do is you want to make sure you hold down the R button and don't let go of it as you load up a game. And then you should get into your Homebrew menu, and you'll notice that there's no applet mode on top. Now what you want to do is, if you're playing Animal Crossing or Pokemon, you want to navigate to JKSV right here. And once this pops up, you'll see device saves, BCAT, and system. Go ahead into device saves, and then depending on whatever game you have on here will show up here. I'm going to go ahead and click on Animal Crossing, and if you already have a save game on your Animal Crossing file, you can go ahead and click on New, and then you can title it whatever you want it to be. Now let's name it whatever, click on Accept, and then it's going to start making a copy of whatever your island looks at the point of its last save on your Switch. And there it is. Now you can do this multiple times. You can keep clicking new. It's just going to make identical copies of whatever the save is. You can always change this later. You can change what the actual file says on your PC later. So if you wanted to have a material island, you wanted to have a treasure island, or whatever it may be, this is how you would do it. Now, once you do this, you want to make sure that you download NHSE on your PC. Now I do have download links for NHSE. I will make sure to put it in the description of this video as well. Once you do that, you can go ahead and save edit these. And once you do the save editing on NHSE, you're gonna save the file, put it back on the SD card. Now, once you're ready to load up your save after you made some changes on NHSE, you want to make sure you click on the Y button to restore it. If you click on A, it's gonna actually overwrite your file with whatever is loaded on your Switch at the moment. So if you want to load up your edited file, click on Y. It's going to tell you, are you sure you want to restore? Click on A for yes, and you're going to actually have to hold it down. And then that's it. And then you can go back to the home screen, and then you can go ahead and boot up your game. And that's it. If you guys have more questions, feel free to join my Discord server, and I do have dedicated support channels, so make sure you guys ask your questions there. I'll see you guys.